to her, she popped her head up out of the grass and was spotted by a guest on Taxon's vehicle. His name is Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. Well done. So there's the leopard. Tristan is also here now, and we're now going to bring Tristan in, and you can enjoy Tandy from a vehicle. We are going to extract and find something else. Yeah, there we are. There's Tristan. He's coming in now. Thank you, Joseph. As you were. Yeah. Very sad, actually. Yes, we are having fun. We couldn't find her, and then the vehicle came past, and I'm going to say that she popped her head out because she heard the vehicle.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why the vehicle saw her.
Exactly.
Right, okay. Okay, we're going to hand you onto this car now, and then you're going to go in and have a look at the leopard. Enjoy. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Well, how exciting is that James managed to track down the leopard, and well, of course, another vehicle obviously spotted it, but it doesn't matter. They were in the right area, and Herbie has done a fantastic effort to be able to find her here. So let's hope that she's not in a bit of a grumpy mood, as she can sometimes be if she sees people on foot. Seems as though she's behaving so far, so all is good. But exciting stuff, and it's what we were hoping for. We were hoping for a gap with Tandy in terms of that we wanted to find her wherever she may be, and particularly if she's got a kill, because hopefully she can then lead us towards where this den might be and where she's keeping the little cub. And who knows if the cub is actually here at the moment or if it's just her by herself, and we'll just have to wait and see. I think that maybe the cub is not far off, is in a drainage line not too far from here, and so that's what I'm hoping, at least. Whether or not that's the case, well, we'll soon find out. Seb, is that alright for you for now? You can see our Bushwalk Intrepid team moving off in the background there. In fact, I think they're going to disappear out of view very quickly. And then Tandy is still sitting underneath the tree. So we've given her a little bit of space, and it's probably the best thing to do. After she's seen people on foot, it's always better just to give her a bit of room and let her calm down. Most definitely, Tandy, you can see the bars across her top left eye. So for those of you that don't know who Tandy is, she's an 11-year-old leopardess that has now become the sort of dominant female in this area since the disappearance of her mother at the beginning of last year. And so she's now moved in. She does have a cub at the moment who is about 3 months old. And so she is very easy to tell, because if you look over her left eye there, you see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 almost bar-like structures that go over, and almost looks like a big eyebrow that she's got on her left eye. And that's very different to her sister, Shadow, who doesn't lacks those markings. So you heard Steve earlier referring to Shadow, and that's exactly what... Now, that is normal for Tandy. She is going to be a bit of a handful. I told you if she sees people on foot that she can sometimes be a handful, and that is exactly what's just happened. So she doesn't really like when trackers sit on the front of the car. This has been a theme that's run throughout her life, and she's always been like this since the beginning. Whenever there's a tracker on the front and she's been walked into prior to that, she gets a little upset with the trackers on the front of the car. So she'll calm down, though. It's just important that we give her a bit of space. Now, I was very, very bad. I didn't even introduce myself or who I've got on camera. So you saw that James showed us, and so it's better that I say hello to you all now. My name's Tristan, and on camera today I've got Sebastian, who I'm sure is very happy to see a leopard. Seb, are you happy to see a leopard?
Very happy.
There we go. And hopefully we will find the cub, because Seb hasn't seen the cub yet. So we're going to try and see if we can find this little cub and see where it goes. But there goes Tandy. You can see she's walking around. I'm going to give her space. I'm not going to move too much. She's evidently not very impressed with all of us. Look how she's slinking. You can see she doesn't really want to be spotted right now. She's trying to get away because she doesn't want... she's had this attention from people on foot, which she doesn't like, and then now obviously 2 vehicles, and so she's trying to just slink away into a thicket. And so we're going to let her just give her a bit of space and breathe a little bit, and then we're going to try and reposition ourselves that we can see her. But it's an exciting start to the afternoon, that's for sure, and hopefully she'll behave herself for the remainder of the afternoon. But I'm just going to go back towards the road and then around, because there's a nice little road that goes down there that won't require me bashing through trees too much. And so, talking about trees, while I try and relocate on, we've given Tandy a lot of distance, and space, and you can see now she's calming right down, so she's gone into a sleeping position now, which is fantastic news. So it means that she's at least relaxing with us being here. The other vehicle has left, so it's just us now, and like I say, we've parked very far from her. We're not close to her at all, which means that it allows us the opportunity to just let her relax a little bit, and hopefully she'll get calm enough, and then later we'll get a little closer and we'll be able to at least view her slightly better than what we are now. Now she's just kind of resting up in a little thicket, and I really don't want to bother her much more than she's been bothered already so far this afternoon. And like I say, it was just a lot at once, and it's very typical of her to be like this. She sees somebody on foot, then she sees a vehicle, and she gets a little bit kind of panicked about it. Well, not panicked, but that's always been her demeanor. She's gone after, sort of shown an aggressive side when she feels like there's people around or something like that. So it's nothing to worry about. It's how she's always been. And so the thing about her is to just give her a bit of space after the fact, and then she actually calms down relatively quickly. Like you can see now, she's now sleeping and taking it very easy. Autumn, you're wondering how many cubs can a leopard have in its lifetime? Well, it obviously is very dependent on what goes on as to whether they have their cubs are raised to adulthood, whether their cubs die. That will all sort of differentiate between them. So hypothetically, if we take somebody like Karula, so she had all of her cubs, and most of them survived. She only lost the one. So if we add all those litters together, then it would be, I just got to count them now, because it was Induna and Mishu, it was Shivinzi, Shivambalana, Thandi, Shadow, there was Quarantine, Kunyuma, and then obviously Hosana and Shungila. So that was those five, plus she had a sixth set, which obviously, sixth one, or litter, that didn't survive, and so she only had six. But if we look at somebody like Shadow's probably had double that in her lifetime. It's because she's had very little success in raising cubs, and therefore she'll have a lot more, because she'll constantly be coming into an estrus cycle, constantly be mating and producing cubs. But if they're not surviving, then she just does it over again. And so the more successful females have less cubs, whereas the more unsuccessful have more cubs, but yet their cubs won't survive. So it will all balance itself out eventually. But theoretically, if they're very successful animals, they'll be very much like Karula, in that they'll have 5 to 6 litters would be about the maximum that they would have if they're very successful. If they are unsuccessful, they could have anywhere upward of 12 to 14 litters throughout their lifetime. It also obviously depends on how old they live to. So Karula, who was 12 years old when she disappeared, could theoretically have had another set of cubs still after that. We know that there are some females. If you look at the Styx Pride, there's one of the females there that is having cubs, and she's around sort of 15 years old. So, cats can still have cubs quite late, around 14, 15, but that is really on the sort of upper limit. Particularly for leopards, you find that they tend to battle a little bit with it and start to really not mate that much after they reach about 14 years old. So Tandy, I would say, has got this little one that she's now got to raise, being 11 years old. This little one will be raised over the course of the next year. And then it's going to be interesting to see if she does exactly what she did with Tumba. So Tumba was the little male that she had before this cub that she's currently got. And he was abandoned, well, not abandoned, but he was left at around sort of 15 months is when she first started to leave him alone. So theoretically, that would put her at about 12 and a half. So easily time for another set after this little one, should this one be successful. Right, well, we're going to spend most of our afternoon with Tandy now that we've found her. Hopefully she'll lead us back to the cub at some point, and hopefully we'll get her to sort of come out a little bit, and she'll be a little bit more kind of relaxed about life later in the afternoon. So while we do that, let's go across to Steve, who is once again into the trees, I believe. Well, I wish you luck, Taylor. You can see we are in the thickets now. So Tandy has decided to move and to reposition herself into a place where, well, you wouldn't even know she's there. So she's lying behind those bits of grass in front of the fallen. There we go. Hello, girl. Now, why are you getting upset with me? I haven't done anything. Now, you see, she's just growling a little bit, so I just want to lower my voice a little bit, but you can see how quickly she can disappear. It just goes to show you why sometimes we really struggle to be able to find these leopards. Okay, I wonder if the cub's not here. I just want to keep quiet a little bit. Just let her settle down, because she almost looks as though the cub might be around. Maybe this is a different den site that she's using at the moment. I can't see anything. I'm relying a lot on Seb and the camera, because literally we have no view of her when she puts her head down. As you can see, like that, it's very difficult to find her. And you can imagine how many times we drive past leopards without even knowing. There's where she is, in that little general vicinity over there. And you can see it's not that far from the car. I would say it's maybe 20 meters from where we are, and yet you cannot see that leopard at all. Only when she pops her head up, and even then, it's difficult. So I'm not sure what's going on and what she's up to on that side of things, but there's no other way to get to this area, and so it would be a good place for a den site. Lots of fallen over trees and lots of places where she can hide this little cub, and so I wonder if that's what's going on. I'm hoping to see a little bundle of fur bouncing around through that grass. So, well, that's what I'm going to try and hope for. The fact that she is a little growly about it, maybe that means that there is a little bundle of fur bouncing in that area, and that she's just kind of making sure that we know this is her section. But isn't it amazing when she just drops back down again, how quickly she disappears? Now, since we don't see her very much at the moment, and talking of baby leopards, I have some very good news for all of you. And so those of you that have been asking about Kuchava, apparently she was seen at some point either yesterday or this morning on Chitwa with suckle marks. So she has given birth, which is apparently, I can't verify 100%. I've just been told that somebody saw her with suckle marks in the last 24 hours, which means that she has given birth. Where exactly, no one knows, but it is really exciting news that Thandi's generation is now, for the first time, going to receive the next generation. So for her, she's had only the one female that she's raised to adulthood, and that one has now just given birth to, which is very cool. Nina, you say the leopard population seems really stable here. Well, we have had a good run at things lately. I mean, we have had we did have, I suppose, a terrible start to 2017. The first quarter of 2017, or maybe the first half of 2017, was not good, in that we, lost Karula somehow. We lost Salahesh. There's been a couple of males that have disappeared. There was even Vatumi also was out. So, we had a few that disappeared over that period, and it's nice now that we've got a few others. I think the cub is there, or she's feeding, one of the two. So that's why she keeps dropping her head like that. But isn't this incredible, the camouflage that a leopard displays? It is absolutely baffling to me how she can just disappear. I can promise you now that that grass is not long, but it is amazing that once she gets flat like that, those spots just completely melt away, and you can see why James had such a struggle to try and find her on foot earlier. Right, well, we're going to sit here for a little bit. Hopefully the little cub will pop out at some point. Who knows? But while we sit and be patient, let's go across to James Henry as he meanders on his feet through the African wilderness.
Careful, careful.
Indeed I am, Taylor. I'm always love when I get to spend time with this cat. And you can see we can reposition slightly, and what we've got is her back at the moment, and you can see she's moving quite a bit. So the cub is not here. What she's doing is she's busy feeding off this kill that James saw the drag mark for, and so she dragged it down into a little thicket in there, and that's what she's busy doing now. It's just trying to feed off that, and I don't think there's much left, so it's going to be good for us to stay here with her and make sure that as she feeds and eats, that maybe once she's finished, she might go to the cub and go and suckle it. So it's good, but you can see, look, she's using her mouth just to tear and to try and use those connational on the side of her mouth to get little bits of chunks of meat off. But she's got herself into a real ditch in there, and it's really difficult to be able to see her. But it's not... Oh, there we go. She pops her head up every now and then just to check, especially when she's feeding. She's making a bit of noise. She crunches every now and then, or she's tearing at flesh, and that makes a bit of a sound. So she pops her head up just to look around, make sure that she's not being approached by anything, and then she goes back to feeding. So I don't know what she's got to eat. I mean, we can't see anything from here, and there's no other way to be able to get into where that is and to be able to see her. There's literally, she's put herself in probably the worst possible place for anyone to view her, but the best possible place for a leopard to feed, because she's got a number of escape options and a number of places she can go up trees, but she's also so well hidden that anything that walked past her probably wouldn't even see her if she just stopped feeding and watched them. It really is phenomenal where she's managed to get herself. And I wonder if it's because she heard James and them coming, and she just decided she'd just stash it down in here where she can then feed. Now, hopefully she'll pick it up and move it. That would be first prize for us. Maybe just move it up and out a little bit of that gully that she's in. There certainly isn't any other way to see her than where we are now. But we think we've got a fair enough view at the moment, and at least we can see her back and her hips and that beautiful golden coat and the tail that goes around, and every now and then we get to see that little head popping up, which is quite nice. But how cool is this? It's great to have her on a kill because, like I was saying, it's really going to help us unlock where the new den site is. Even if she doesn't take us there tonight, tomorrow morning we should have a situation where we'll be able to find tracks going somewhere, and then obviously we can get onto those tracks and hopefully we'll be able to find where that is. Right, well, Tandy is busy feeding. Hopefully she'll bring the kill out. We're going to be patient and wait, and in the meantime, let's go back across to Steve and his trees. Well, as you can see, not much has changed with our leopard. She's still feasting away down inside that little gully, and it doesn't seem like a very big kill, given the fact that I can see her whiskers every now and then through those blades of grass, yet I can't see a carcass in any way, so I can't see any sort of rib cage or anything like that. I would imagine that this must be maybe a small impala, baby duiker, baby steenbok, something like that, scrub hare, something of that sort of size range, because otherwise we would have seen a rib cage most definitely. You can see her ears are twitching between the blades of grass there, so it's not that deep inside this gully. It's deep enough that we can't see her face, but certainly not deep enough that it would hide a substantial meal. So it's good for us. It hopefully will mean, like I say, that she will finish it very quickly, and then it will be on towards wherever the cub may be. That's the idea, at least. Whether or not it plays out, well, time will tell. And that's the best thing about being out here, is that you just never know what's going to happen. You never know if she's going to get up and go straight away, or if she's going to just sit and lounge around for the rest of the evening. But it's worth being patient for and worth sitting, because, well, I'm sure, like many of you, missing the little cub, but we haven't seen it for a few days now, and so it's such a cute little thing that it's when you don't see it for a few days, you kind of start to miss it a little bit. So I would love to see it, and I know Seb is dying to see the little cub. He's very, very excited to try and see it, as we all have been for our first time to see it. So hopefully we will be able to grant Seb his wishes and find this little cute cub somewhere in this area. I wonder if she hasn't moved it that day when James saw them, if she hasn't moved it into this drainage line that we're actually in. It goes over Philemon's Dip and then runs towards the Mulawati area, and so I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere inside there. Lots of great places for a leopard to den in there, so it could very well be that she's just moved her den into this drainage, which is going to make it very tough for us, because ultimately there we go, she's picking it up. It was quite rusty in color, so I'm going to go with either baby steenbok or baby impala. That's what my two calls are going to be for this particular animal. We'll just have to wait and see for her to pick it up properly once more. But it's going to be difficult if her den is in this drainage line, because as you can see, we're already struggling here, and it gets worse. The further east you go, the harder it is to negotiate it, and so she might be in a place that is just not accessible even for our... Oh, she's calling? Listen, she's calling. You hear that? So she's calling for the cub. You hear that chuffing sound? So when she calls the cub, she goes... Now she's making lots of noise. Now, okay, girl, come past. She's going to come past us. She's just down below. But she's calling. Look, she's calling. Seb, there's a bit of a hole here. I wonder if she's going to get the cub out. She's most definitely calling it, though. It's very soft sounds that she's making. So I just want to sit nice and quietly, because the cub is very good. It knows only when mom calls it must it come. And I wonder if she's calling it to come to meat for the first time, to come say, come, try this meat, see what it's like, see what it tastes like. You're getting to that age now where you're going to start being weaned off milk slowly. Can you hear that? No, I just have to hold on. I just need to tell the guys. Yeah, Andrew, she's just started calling this cub, so if you can just stand by there, please. So I just had to tell Andrew just to wait, because... So she's just stood up and just moved onto the top now and is calling. Now, obviously, when we've got cubs and things like that around, we try and limit the number of vehicles. So Andrew just said he's going to give us a bit of space so that hopefully the little one comes out. But definitely calling, and I'm trying to look down in the drainage just to see if there's any sign of little ears poking out anywhere or coming from a fallen over tree. Now, she stopped calling now. The way that she was facing, though, was onto the other side. It seems as though maybe that cub is hidden still in the drainage just on the other side here. There's another gully that runs east-west. Still calling. No, still very quiet. I don't see anything. Now, the little cub will take a while. As we know, it's a bit naughty. It doesn't really listen to Tandy very much at all. The other day we watched it where it wanted to just go on its own direction altogether. And Tandy, the more she called, the more this little cub was like, nope, I'm not coming to you, Mom. I've decided this is where I want to be. So who knows how long it will take for this little one to come. But it will be so cool if it does come out. And obviously, it's going to be a very difficult visual from where we are now. But we'll try and reposition ourselves if the little one does arrive. So while we sit and be patient and hope that this little one makes an appearance, let's go back across to Steve, and I'm not sure what he's up to, but hopefully he's going to have some luck this afternoon too. Indeed, James, it's very exciting, and she's right in front of the car calling, which means that she's showing complete trust in us. To be sitting here calling right next to us means that she doesn't mind if the little cub comes out when we're here, which is fantastic news. It means that our afternoon of giving her space, just giving her a little bit of time, means that she's now worked out that we're not a threat in any way and that she's happy for this little cub to come out. So that's the amazing thing about it. It just goes to show if you're just respectful to these animals, then you can be rewarded, and also patient. That's the other thing. Now, there's a really big thicket just to my left, and that's where she's looking into, and she's kind of pleading for this little cub to come out. She's like, come on, little one, time for you to come out. You can see what we're dealing with on our left-hand side. So even if this little cub is to our left, we're not going to be able to see it. But if the cub was where we were, she certainly wouldn't be comfortable like she is now. You can see she's calling, looking down in there, and hopefully this little one's going to come bounding out of this thicket. There we go. I'm sure it's coming, Seb. The fact that she's taken a step forward. I'm looking on this left-hand side. I'm hoping it's going to come out. I'm so excited for Seb, actually. I'm more excited for Seb than I am for myself at this stage, which is quite cool. So it's always the best thing when somebody gets to see a new leopard for the first time, and especially I know Seb loves leopards, and we've spent so much time with leopards over the winter period at Djuma. So I'm hoping that Seb gets to see it as well, which is going to be cool. But the fact that she's looking into this bush and she's calling so much hopefully means that this little one is going to come climbing out shortly. Come on, little one, don't be nervous of us. But look at her. Isn't she not one of the most beautiful cats? I think she's absolutely beautiful. I'm just looking around, all around me, because I don't know where this cub could be. The way that she's kind of looking, you never know. She's kind of just staring in different directions. It's not behind us anyway, is it, Seb? No, I don't see it. She's calling, though. Normally cubs come when they're called like this, so, you know, sometimes, like I say, particularly with this little cub, is that she's a little naughty, and so maybe it's just deciding to kind of slowly venture in. Not sure about all of this at this stage, but let's see. How cool is that sound? That sound makes me the most excited you can imagine. I love when you hear that. It's a very special thing when you hear it. Now you see she's just, there we go, she's chuffing, so I think she's seen it. Let's have a look, Seb. It might be coming from the left. I can't see it yet myself, but she perked up quite a bit, and she kind of looked in that direction, so I don't know if it either responded or it came bounding out a little bit that she saw it. There it comes, Seb. Seb, it's there on the left-hand side. It's coming to Mom. Look at how cute it is, Seb. It is the cutest little thing. Come on, little one. Hello. Welcome. How cute is that, guys? Hello, little one. You are a little rock star. How sweet is that little cub? How cute. Now it's going to get a little grooming session. Yes, where have you been? Come, you need to get cleaned, and you can see there, when she lifted her tail, most definitely a little female. Now I think Tandy's going to take it down to the meat. We might see it go to a carcass for its first time. I think it's probably been introduced already. Oh, it's being licked now and rolled onto its back. Look at that. How sweet is that? Oh, that is just the best thing to see in the whole world. That is very, very cool. We are so spoilt to be able to see something like this. We really are. It is the most epic thing in the whole world to be able to spend time with a leopard and its little cub. And so we are really being kind of given a treat to be in this kind of place, and for her to have the confidence to call it out right in front of the car is just something spectacular. So we really are, like I say, being spoilt. The rain is also starting to fall. It's just kind of becoming a moody afternoon. Seb, how was that?
Awesome.
Is that awesome, Seb? Seb says he's so happy, and he's grinning like a Cheshire cat, as am I at the moment, and he's very happy that he's managed to see this little cub, and he says it's very, very cute. Well, I agree, Seb. It's probably one of the cutest little things we could ever imagine. Look at it. It's boisterous as well, naughty as well as being cute, but aren't most little cubs the same? Although this one seems to have its little attitude of its own. It seems to just want to do its own thing all the time, and run around like a little bit of a hooligan and kind of do what it wants. Now you can see it's a very dense thicket that she's now gone onto the other side. I was hoping she was going to lie down really where she was at one point, so she was kind of right out in the open where we first got to see that cub, but now she's lying in a bit of a thicket, and I don't think we're really going to be able to move too much. I also don't want to startle her in any way. I want the cub to settle and for her to settle. You can see she's bonding with that cub right now, so that grooming that you're seeing is all a bonding process. That's how they strengthen what they have as a mother and a daughter, is by rubbing up on each other, licking, making sure that that little cub is in a sort of good condition and good health. So Faith, you say, it should be illegal to be that cute and that it's too sweet for words. Well, it is, isn't it? It is the most incredible thing to see little leopard cubs, and it's always the debate which one is cuter, lion or leopard. But, I don't know. It's a tough choice, actually. Both of them are very, very cute little things. I suppose my love for leopards means that I'll always pick leopard before lions any day of the week, and doesn't matter what size they are. But certainly this little one as well has got the best attitude. I love the fact that it's quite feisty and that it does its own thing. It's just like her mom, really. I think it's going to be a very similar cat to her mom, although it doesn't display that nastiness, well, not nastiness, but that growling that she has every now and then. So hopefully that won't be a part of that sort of inherit that trait is what I'm trying to look for. So hopefully she won't be a growly cat. She'll be a bit more like Kuchava, because Kuchava is a very relaxed cat these days and hardly ever growls at vehicles and is quite chilled. But look at those eyes. It's an eye of a mother who is comfortable but is still watching us very carefully with her little cub around. And I think the cub is settled to have a little suckle. I think that's what's happening, and so that's why she's lying in the way that she is. Zephyr, you're wondering how old will the cub be until Tandy stops moving the den around? Well, we're getting to that now. When we're in that process, the fact that she's got a carcass, the fact that she's got the cub here, is generally a sign that that cub is no longer really being denned. It's now starting to actually, being moved around into wherever their food is. So I think it's a situation where she's going to obviously still keep it in thickets and keep it in holes in the banks, but the process of her actually denning for long periods, I think, is over. I don't think she's going to stay in one place for 2-3 weeks at a time like she did over Christmas. I think we're going to see a lot more movement from her and her little cub, given that it is now starting to be introduced into a carcass environment. One thing that has been seriously interesting through this whole process with Tandy, and something that I have never seen with any other leopard before, is that she has, throughout this denning period, been taking carcasses back to den sites. So if this is a den, she might have actually brought this carcass back, and it seems as though she's been targeting small animals, so going after things like baby impalas, duiker, steenbok, because she can carry them and she can then drag them all the way back to the den site, which is very strange. You generally don't see that from a leopard, and the reason why you don't see that is because things like hyenas, lions, other leopards can then pick up that scent and follow her here. So it is a very strange thing that she does it. I'm not sure why she does it, but evidently it's working for her. She's successful at this stage. The little cub is able to start climbing trees already. We did see it climb a tree the other day, and so it's getting to that point now where she can be confident enough, I suppose, to bring meat back to the den, because the little one will be able to try and get up into trees and away from any any potential threat. So it is a very cool thing to see, and it's the best time now that we'll have with Tandy is from now until about a year old. We have the best moments, because that's when she kind of moves with it. There's a lot of playing that goes on, and it really becomes a very phenomenal part of it. Oh, look at this. Look how cute that is. This little one is playing with mom and is licking. Oh, that is just the coolest thing to see. Are we not so spoiled that we have this on our doorstep at the moment? This is literally not even 5 minutes from camp, and this is what we have. And look at the size of those paws already. They are massive. You can see it's now biting Tandy's ear. This is very cute. It's the coolest thing to watch. But like I say, I mean, those paws are huge already. And you think about the size of that cat and the size of Tandy, and you can see just with the sort of paw itself just how big it is on Tandy's head. Now, you can see Tandy's getting a bit kind of sort of concerned because the wind is blowing and there's the roof is touching some of these branches and it's scraping. So that's why she's just looking in our direction, is because there's a bit of noise from the roof itself. But it really is the sweetest thing to watch this little cub play with Tandy, and I look forward to many more days, hopefully, of watching this and seeing how this little one grows up. It is the coolest thing that we've got her around, and that, like I say, she's chosen Djuma to have her den, and not just Djuma, but right in the heart. Oh, there we go, jumping on her head. Look at that, the instinct is already there. You see that? The instinct to get the paws around and to go for the head, that's all already built in. And now she's busy pulling fur out of the back of her mom's head. There was a bit of a chunk of fur that came out there, and also a little grooming that's going on. So she's already learned what grooming is and how to get rid of certain things. And how cute is that? Now, you normally see mom grooming baby, but other way around with this little one. This little one's got its own attitude altogether, and that's quite a cool sort of look of the two of them. And you can see, even though it's tiny, its ears are almost the same size as Tandy's when they're behind her head like that. You can just see the ear kind of sticking out, not that much smaller. So it takes them a bit of a while to grow into their ears. They always look a bit awkward for the first few months with these massive ears, but she will grow into them. And if it is that same sort of lineage as that what Tandy's produced, all of her offspring have had rather large ears to start with. Wabayiza, Bahuti, Kuchava, Tamba, they've all had the larger than normal ears. Well, maybe not larger than normal, but look at this little one. Are you pushing mom around? How cool. Kathy, hi, are you saying, is the cub dark in colour, or is it because it's wet that it's looking darker? Well, it is darker in colour than Tandy because the spots are much closer together. So the contrast between the light and dark is far less. You've got a lot more dark on that small little body than you do on Tandy. And so, oh, look at this. Tandy, you are so relaxed this afternoon, my girl. Well done. And so it appears darker, but it's also probably a little damp. There is a bit of sort of misty kind of rain that's starting to fall now, and so maybe there's a bit of dampness on it. But it's more that the spots are so close together that it appears darker. Poor Tandy's ear is about to be eaten off at this rate. It's being groomed with much vigor and passion by this little one. Look at that. You see the little teeth there? How cool. Shame. This is the cutest little thing in the whole world. And in a way, it's actually, you know, we always want, when we see kind of have cubs and things, we always try and ask for kind of the biggest litters possible, because it's always nice to, you know, have more than one that grows up, and in case anything may happen, that there's always a more chance of a surviving cub. But sometimes one cub is precious because the interaction between the mother and that cub tends to be a lot more and a lot stronger. It's amazing actually to watch the two of them go about their things and the way that they do bond together. Lilo, you're wondering when leopard cubs start making vocalizations. Well, almost immediately. So this little cub, I've heard it squeaking and squawking and making noise towards mom as well. And so the other day when she was moving it to a different den, and then we found that this little cub was fairly vocal actually at times, and like I say, squeaking and chuffing back at mom. So they are able to make vocalizations, but if in terms of a territorial vocalization, she won't make that until she reaches about 3.5 to 4 years old, and she's got a territory of her own. That's when she'll start making that sound. So a long way to go for this little one before that happens, but it certainly has got the feisty nature to be a queen of Djuma at some stage in the future. She certainly seems she's got it all under control and is really trying to kind of take over the world already and is not worried about a thing. I mean, we're sitting here and she's paying no attention to us, that little cub. It just goes to show how relaxed. I mean, I'm talking and we're not far from the little cub at all, and yet it's still taking it all in its stride. It's looking around, it's playing with mom, and it is completely relaxed with this whole process, which is so cool to see. I was hoping it was going to go down to the carcass to go and play with the carcass, but unfortunately it seems that mom is more of a play station than the carcass will be, although when it gets a little older, we know from experience that cubs will pick up and throw and throttle and move and sort of play around with their food quite a bit if it's small enough to do so. You can see Tandy's getting annoyed with her tail being bitten. She's flicking her tail all over the place, and that's even making it worse because the little cub will certainly start going after that tail if it can. The more it moves, the more of a game it becomes between mom and cub. You just see the movement in the background with the tail and the little cub kind of chasing it around quite a bit. Now, often what happens when they play with the tail like this and they bite it, it triggers these leopards to get up and start moving and to reposition because they get a bit irritated with the cub biting at it, and so this is how it goes. Right, guys, well, it is such a special sighting, and there's a few people that have been around for a while that really want to come and see this little cub and spend some time and have a little look, and we've been so fortunate to be able to see this that I think, it's best that we try and give some others a chance to see this. So while we kind of move out and allow others to have a look at this beautiful little cub, let's go back across to James, and I hope that he's not getting too wet as he starts to move, I'm sure, closer to home. Well, I'm still with Thandi. I'm not back with her. I never got out of here in the first place because the little cub, through movement, has run behind the car, and I can't move anywhere until it comes back around towards where Thandi is because I don't want to scare it and be between Thandi and the cub. So I'm just sitting waiting. So the cub ran into this big thicket on our left-hand side. You can see there's this fallen over tree right behind the car here, and so that fallen over tree is where it's run into. And so now I'm hoping that it's going to go back towards Thandi. Otherwise it might be a very long afternoon of us just sitting here waiting for little one to move back that way. Like I said, I don't want to cause Thandi any stress by being between her and her cub. We know that she's a very protective mother, and while she's fast asleep now, she's not really too concerned about the cub being close to us. At the end of the day, I just don't want to stress her anyway, or the cub actually. I don't want the cub to get any fear of the car. I want it to be a situation where the cub learns that the car is not something to worry about, and to see mom's reaction. And if mom is growling and hissing and charging, well then, the cub starts to learn that too. And so it's better just to be patient and wait, and thankfully all the other guys that wanted to come to the sighting, because it started to rain, have decided that they're not going to come, and that allows us then just to sit here and be patient and not have to worry too much at all, which is really good news. So it's a good situation to be in, and you can see, like I say, Thandi is now having a well-deserved nap. She's been a busy girl this afternoon. She's, seen people on foot, then she had a bit of a feed, and then cub came out. There was a bit of playing and grooming, so nice for her just to have a nice little nap. Now, the interesting part about all of this is through kind of moving around here and kind of going back and forth and round and about, is that we've kind of ended up in a place much closer than where I thought. We are literally, I would say, maybe 20 meters from Philemon's Dip itself. So I think that she's maybe keeping this little cub in the little pipes underneath the road on Philemon's Dip, and we've just been driving over there without even knowing that she's been there. So I think that's where it's going, because if I look where we are, the sausage tree is right here. It's very, very close to where we are. So as said, pans back, you'll see a bar and a bit of a aerial, which I do apologize about, but there's the sausage tree right there from Philemon's Dip where the aerial is. I do apologize about, like I say, but that's the sausage tree in the background there. So we're very, very close to the dip itself, and that's where I'm pretty sure the little cub ran off to. So hopefully that's where it went off to, because otherwise it's going to be a situation where, like I said, we're going to be stuck for quite some time in this thicket and not be able to get out. So at least, though, like I say, Tandy's not concerned, which is good for us, and she's having a really nice nap. And what we'll do is we'll just see how this goes. Hopefully the cub will come back out again. Stephen, the success rate for cubs in terms of reaching adulthood here in the Sabi Sands is obviously it differs because there's obviously changes in males, and depending on what's happening with the males will reflect a success rate in the cubs. But it normally works out to about 30% of cubs that are born within the Sabi Sands are raised to independence, so not necessarily maturity, but independence, which is a very low figure. You would think 3 out of every 10 cubs is not very high at all. And if you look at somebody like Shadow, well, not somebody, but a leopard like Shadow, she unfortunately has had a really poor run of things in terms of luck, and has unfortunately lost quite a number of cubs. So she would have brought the average down, whereas somebody was a leopard like Karula would have brought that average up a little bit. So Karula, even though she was 9 out of 10 cubs she was raising to adulthood, you know, you've got a situation where Shadow is only probably 1 out of 20 or so. So, you know, that's why it balances out at around, on average, 3 out of every 10. But, you know, you obviously get times in certain areas where you get a very stable leopard dynamic. So, you know, we've had a really stable dynamic here for the last couple of years in the form of Tingana, and that means that, you know, Karula was able to have her offspring. Now he's got offspring with Tandy, and hopefully he'll be able to you know, raise those as well as Kuchava, because Kuchava ultimately should be Tingana's offspring as well if she's had little ones. So, you know, there's a lot that Tingana needs to do, and he's got a lot of work because there's a number of young males that are starting to push into this area. Right, well, Tandy's having a nap. We're going to sit tight. Like I say, we're going to just try and see if this cub does emerge from behind us, because like I say, I don't want to frighten it. So while I'm patient and wait for the cub to move off, let's go back across to Steve. And, well, I believe he's got something that's not spotted, but striped.